I'm Brent Gordon from Shelley Road Chiropractic, and today I'd like to discuss sitting posture. So I think we should begin by starting with some of the things we already know, and that is that core stability plays a big part of how we sit. And so if we can get our core stability correct, that will save us from a lot of unnecessary problems when we're sitting. So if we go back to our toilet roll, and if we have a look at that, it's very strong under compression load. So you have to think of your trunk as a solid cylinder. And if you can maintain that control of that cylinder through your sitting posture, you'll get less problems in the future with your back. So how are we going to do that? So if we look at the lumbar spine itself, this is a pelvis and the lumbar spine, and so we put it on the side. What we want to maintain is our correct lumbar lordosis, or the curve this way. What will happen when a lot of people sit is that they'll lose that lumbar curve and they'll go into lumbar flexion. Now, flexion puts a lot more pressure on some of the sensitive structures of the spine, particularly the discs in between each of the vertebrae. So if you're sitting for long periods through the day, we really want to maintain a good lumbar position and curve. So how we will also do that is that if we keep the transverse abdominis muscles active, which was that cardboard from the actual cylinder, while you're sitting, you'll have less problems. So if we're then sitting in a chair, we want to have a little bit of tone in these muscles and keeping that lumbar curve here. So if I now go to stand and then sit it in a chair, it's going to be important not only how I sit in the chair, but actually how you approach the chair. So importantly, before you sit down, what you want to do is pre-activate those muscles. So you just do a little tiny sort of contraction like we learned previously, where you actually blow the belly up and brace at the same time. And so as you go to sit, we're going to activate those muscles and then actually sit down with those muscles activated. What most people will do is that they're very relaxed in these muscles and they'll just get to the chair and they'll just flop into the chair, okay? So we don't want to flop into the chair, we want to maintain active control. So it's activation and then sitting down at the same time. Now, from this position, when you go to stand up, it's really important that you also don't sort of get into this, slouched position and then stand up from that position there, lifting up through your back, okay? What we really want to do is actually from that position, we then activate those muscles again, and then we're going to push up through our hips and use our glute muscles rather than our back muscles to stand. So we drive up through the legs rather than lifting up through the spine. So it's really good, and it's actually a good exercise to practice. As a little routine, you can actually hop up in the front of your chair, you can sit there, and you can actually do a seated, basically a seated squat. And I'll often get people to do, sets of 10 of these throughout the day. And in some cases, particularly if there's underlying knee issues or hip issues, you can do many sets of 10 throughout the day just to actually teach your brain how to actually use the muscles properly, but also to activate some of those muscles appropriately, particularly on the inside of the knee and the glute, because they work really lovely together. So we can sit, we can stand. So then when you normally approach a chair to come and sit down, people don't need to know you're doing it all correctly, but you'll do that as you go down. And when you stand up, contract, and then push, and then stand up. And if you do that considerably through most of your working day, and if you do it just as part of your routine, it actually forms part of your core stability training program. So people say, how much core training should I do? How much core stability work do I need to do? It's like if you actually live it and do it throughout the normal course of action, you really don't need to do a whole lot of additional training. So it's a really good little tip, so make sure you do that one. So what about the office chair? How do we sit in the office chair, and what's the best way to do that? So if we have a look at an office chair, and I always tell patients that posture doesn't come from how much money you spend on the chair. Posture still comes from your brain's control over the muscles itself. So you can sit really well on actually a plank of wood or just a plain stool. Yes, you can have nice chairs that have got good lumbar support, good headrests, and they can go up and down and tilt in different directions, but you still have to sit in it correctly. So for work, you'll often sit in a chair and you might sort of go back in that chair, but this quite often is not necessarily a great place to actually be the whole day to work in that position. So I'll sometimes get people to sit and perch themselves on the chair and they can just use the front part of the chair for periods of the day. So in this position here, you're using further in the front, you actually tilt the pelvis forward, rock the pelvis forward, and then actually have slight activation in those transverse muscles, and you can then work in that position throughout the day. You ideally want your bench top and desks to be at, if you put your elbows straight down by your side, it should be at that level there. Commonly now, we're often getting people to use perching if they can. So if the chair can come higher, that's great, but the desk will often need to come higher as well. So if you have a desk that raises up and down, you don't necessarily have to be standing all day or sitting all day, but you can go in that in-between height. So that may be with a chair like this, or you could use a stool, and there are various ones in the market. So what you can do with this is that you might be otherwise thinking you're in this position for most of the day, but if your stool can go higher, this actually opens up the angle at the hip here, makes it more obtuse rather than a right angle or acute. And you can put some weight through the feet, and then you can actually push the pelvis forward and work in that position there at a higher level. But the desk does have to move for that to actually be quite functional. So I guess what you need to understand from sitting correctly through the day for work is that no one else is going to do it for you. You can buy a fancy chair, but that chair can still fail and you can still sit poorly in that chair. So it's you, it's your brain, it's your muscles, so you just need to learn how to use them. So make sure you're activating those transverse abdominis muscles when you sit. You can tilt the pelvis forward a little bit, and just be aware that you're keeping your lumbar lordosis when you're sitting and you're not actually allowing that to slouch and cause unnecessary stress through your whole nervous system. So Brent Gordon from Chiropractic, good luck with your sitting.